Imagine for just a moment standing in front of a crowd, not as a celebrity, not as a politician, not as some influencer peddling self-help slogans, but as someone about to declare their ultimate truth. There's no script, no rehearsal, just your heart and the words Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah or Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. In that moment, the world holds its breath. You are not just saying something, you are becoming something. And the truth, well, the truth doesn't whisper, it roars. This isn't a show, it's not performance art, it's not an act of convenience or conformity. It's raw, it's real, and it's unforgettable, because the moment someone sincerely utters the Shahada, what you're witnessing is a soul that has reached the edge of every excuse, every hesitation, every fear, and jumped. It is the human spirit that's most defiant, most powerful, and most honest. You see, we live in an age of noise. Everyone is talking, few are listening, and even fewer are saying anything worth remembering. But then you watch a person declare their belief in one God and his messenger with no reward promised other than peace and truth, and suddenly the room falls silent. That's silence, that's reverence, that's impact. Because truth, real truth, has weight. It changes the atmosphere, unsettles people. It demands something of you. It's easy, isn't it, to follow trends, to go along with the crowd, to be liked, to be safe. But the Shahada, that's not safe, that's not trendy, that's revolutionary. It's an act of spiritual rebellion against everything that tells you to stay small, to stay quiet, to stay afraid. It's the sound of a person tearing off the mask that they've been wearing for years and saying, no more, this is who I am. And I don't care who's watching, and think about that. In a world obsessed with image, someone standing up to affirm their submission to God isn't seeking fame or applause. They're seeking alignment. Alignment with their creator, alignment with truth. It's staggering, it's humbling, beautiful. And let me be absolutely clear, this isn't about religion as a label or an identity badge. This is about a person daring to say, I've looked at this world, I've questioned everything, I've doubted, I've feared, I've stumbled, and even then, I choose this, I choose truth. That is the purest form of human bravery. No cameras, no spotlight, just conviction. This is why the Shahada doesn't need to be shouted to be powerful. It only needs to be true. That quiet voice trembling with sincerity carries more force than 1,000 stadiums of empty noise. It has gravity. It draws in the listener, holds them still, and forces them to reckon with a simple but profound question. What do you believe in? You don't have to be Muslim to be moved by that moment. You just have to be human. Because when you see someone reach the end of their personal storm and choose clarity, it awakens something universal. It exposes the clutter in your own life. The lies you've told yourself, the truths you've been too afraid to face. So next time you witness someone say the Shahada with tears in their eyes, voice shaking but unwavering, don't just watch. Feel it, absorb it, let it challenge you, because that person has found something worth living for. And whether you realize it or not, they've just held up a mirror to your soul. You want to know what real courage looks like on the battlefield. It's not on the front pages. It's not in a viral moment or an adrenaline-fueled act of defiance. The biggest economy's real courage doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. Real courage is quiet. It's measured. It's deeply personal. And it lives in the heart of someone who stands in front of the world and says, there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. That's it. No theatrics, no bravado, just still unshakable conviction. In that moment, the person isn't performing. They're not asking for your approval. They're not catering to your comfort. They're standing in their own truth, knowing full that, well, not everyone will understand it. Some might mock it, some might fear it, and some might even walk away from them forever. And still they say it. That's courage, not the Hollywood version, the real thing. We've confused noise with strength. We think the louder someone is, the braver they must be. But volume doesn't equal bravery. Bravery is the person who's trembling on the inside, but steps forward anyway. It's the person who knows that this decision, this declaration might cost them relationships, opportunities, even safety. But they do anyway. Why? Because something deeper than fear has taken root inside them, something unshakable, something true. And let's not pretend this is easy. It's not. The world today rewards conformity, not conviction. Blend in, stay quiet, don't cause trouble. That's the message. But a person standing to say the Shahada is doing the exact opposite. Biggest economies, they're standing out, they're causing a ripple, and they're doing it with no guarantees, no promises that life will be easier, no assurance that people will suddenly treat them with kindness. Often, the opposite happens, and still they go ahead. You can't fake that kind of courage. You can't rehearse it. The biggest economies. It doesn't come from ego. It comes from a place deeper than logic, deeper than emotion. It comes from knowing, not hoping, knowing that what you're about to say aligns with something far bigger than you. something eternal. That's what gives the voice its steadiness, even when the hands are shaking. And this kind of courage, this real soul-level bravery, is contagious. It speaks to something buried in all of us. We've all been afraid. We've all kept quiet when we should have spoken up. We've all chosen comfort over courage at some point. So when we see someone make that choice to stand firm, to speak truth, to embrace faith despite the cost, it stirs something in us. It makes us wonder what we've been too afraid to admit, what truths we've been too cowardly to live. It's a wake-up call, whether you realize it or not. That quiet voice declaring belief is not just a statement, it's a mirror. It reflects back everything you've buried, everything you've ignored, everything you've compromised to keep the peace. And it forces you to ask yourself a brutal question, what you'd be willing to stand for if you knew it might cost you everything. That's why the moment sticks. That's why it lingers. Because it's not just a religious act. It's a profoundly human one. It's the triumph of conviction over fear. It's the victory of quiet strength over loud insecurity. And it's a reminder that some of the most courageous people you'll meet aren't the ones demanding attention. They're the ones speaking truth in whispers and standing taller than all of us. There's a moment in life where logic takes a back seat, where calculations collapse under the weight of something much bigger. A moment where you don't walk forward, you leap. That's exactly what happens when someone declares the Shahada. It isn't just a religious recitation. It's a deliberate, conscious leap of faith. And what's remarkable, what absolutely shakes you if you're paying attention, is that the person leaping doesn't see a safety net. They're not hedging their bets. They're jumping eyes wide open into the unknown, trusting something far beyond what the eye can see. And that, in a world built on skepticism, is nothing short of revolutionary. We live in a time where doubt is fashionable, where faith is mocked, where belief is treated as a weakness, a crutch for the uninformed or the naive. And yet, here comes someone calm, composed, and utterly aware, declaring belief in the unseen, devotion to the eternal, and allegiance to something greater than themselves. That declaration, that moment of Shahada, it's not Navi, it's defiant, it's deliberate, and it takes far more strength than people will ever understand. You see, taking that leap isn't about blind acceptance. It's not the product of shallow thought. Quite the opposite. Most people who come to this point have wrestled with the questions others avoid, they've doubted, they've torn apart every layer of their beliefs until they found something that could withstand the pressure. That leap of faith isn't a lack of thinking. It's the result of deep thinking, of courageously confronting every fear, every contradiction, and still choosing to believe. It's easy to be a cynic. It's easy to stand on the sidelines, arms crossed, dissecting the beliefs of others like some detached observer. What's hard, what's rare, is to be the person who steps forward and says, I've seen enough, I've felt enough, and I choose this. Not because it's convenient, not because it's easy, but because deep down it feels right. That kind of decision doesn't come from emotion alone. It comes from alignment, from a place of honesty that most people never reach. And that leap, don't underestimate what it means, because this world isn't designed to support people who make such choices. This world is designed to sell you comfort, distraction, and endless options. Faith demands commitment. It requires you to burn the bridge behind you and walk a new path with no guarantee of applause, no expectation of reward, just conviction. Just truth. So when someone steps forward and says the Shahada, you're witnessing more than a moment. You're witnessing a transformation, a shift from uncertainty to purpose, from chaos to clarity. It's not the end of their questions. It's the beginning of a deeper journey, but it's a journey they've chosen with both eyes open. And that choice in a world addicted to escape routes is extraordinary. People often ask, why would someone do this? Why give up your old life? Why embrace something that might isolate you? The answer is devastatingly simple of the biggest economies, because they've found something real, something worth the sacrifice, something that speaks louder than every doubt, every whisper of fear of the biggest. And when you find that, when you know that, you don't walk toward it, you leap. That's why it moves us. That's why, even if you don't share the faith, you can't look away. Because deep down, we all want to believe in something so strongly that we'd risk everything for it. We all want to stop drifting and finally land on something that makes sense. Watching someone take that leap reminds us that it's still possible, that clarity still exists, that maybe, just maybe, it's closer than we think. There's something deeply unsettling about watching someone reject everything the world expects of them and step fully into who they truly are. Because when a person stands up and says the Shahada, what they're really doing is declaring with stunning clarity, I choose my identity. Not the one handed to them by birth, not the one shaped by culture or society, and certainly not the one others are comfortable with. No, they're choosing to define themselves deliberately, fearlessly, and without apology. And in that moment, you realize just how rare that kind of self-possession is. We live in a world obsessed with labels. People spend years trying to fit into the right boxes, trying to be accepted, validated, celebrated. But when someone says, Eli ilaha illallah, mumajua rasulullah, they're not looking for your applause. They're not chasing acceptance. They're not the biggest economies. They're not ticking off a demographic. They're stepping outside the frame altogether. And make no mistake, there is nothing more confronting than watching someone do that with complete peace in their eyes. You see, identity in this world has become a performance. People build their image, curate their personality, and brand themselves like products. It's exhausting, and most of it is fake. But this is real. This is someone standing at the edge of all those performances and saying, no more pretending, no more adjusting themselves to fit into a mold. No more living in fear of being misunderstood. They choose to be seen, not through the lens of society, but through the eyes of truth. And that's why it shakes people, because when you see someone live with that honesty, it highlights how many lies you've accepted about yourself, how many compromises you've made just to be liked, how many parts of yourself you've buried just to keep the peace. It stings. It's uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly inspiring, because deep down, we all want what that person has. Integrity, a sense of self that isn't for sale. When someone utters the Shahada, they're not just choosing faith, they're choosing alignment. They bring their inner world into harmony with their outer actions. That's a rare thing. Most people live divided lives. They feel one thing, believe another, and present something else entirely. But this person, they've stitched themselves back together. They've decided that who they are on the inside matters more than how they're perceived on the outside. And that, in today's image-driven culture, is nothing short of radical. It's also deeply human, because underneath all the noise, every one of us is asking the same question, who am I really? And most people never find the answer. They settle for imitation, for borrowed values, for inherited beliefs. But when someone declares the Shahada, they're not borrowing anymore. They're not imitating. They're not reciting something just to belong. They're saying, this is who I am. I've searched, I've struggled, I've chosen. And this is the truth I'm willing to live by. That level of ownership is powerful. It doesn't matter what background you come from or what faith you follow. Seeing someone stand in their truth with that much certainty should make you pause. It should make you ask, have I ever chosen who I am, or have I just accepted what I was told to be? Because identity isn't something you inherit, it's something you build. Brick by brick. Decision by decision economies. And the moment someone declares faith, they're not just claiming a religion, they're claiming themselves. That kind of self-definition isn't just admirable, it's magnetic. It sticks with you. Long after the moment passes, you're left wondering, biggest economies, what would my life look like if I had the courage to be exactly who I am? There's a silence that follows a heartfelt Shahada, not the awkward kind, not the uncomfortable pause that fills dead air, but the kind of silence that speaks. A silence thick with meaning, charged with presence. Because when someone declares their belief in one God and affirms the finality of Muhammad as his messenger, something shifts in the air. You can feel it. It's not theatrical. It's not dramatic for the sake of attention. It's authentic, and it resonates a frequency that's impossible to ignore. You don't need to be religious to feel it. Economies, you just need to be human. There's a reason the heart races when you witness it. Not because you're confused, but because deep down, something in you recognizes the gravity of what's just happened. That person hasn't just recited words. They've drawn a line in the sand. They've made a commitment that many would spend their entire lives avoiding. And that moment, simple, quiet, honest, is one of the most emotionally powerful things a human being can witness. We're surrounded by surface-level emotion these days, manufactured outrage, empty declarations, crying on chew for views. But the emotion that flows from someone declaring the Shahada is raw. It's earned. It comes from a place so deep, so hard-won, that it bypasses intellect and goes straight to the soul. You can see it in the way their voice trembles, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what they're saying. You can see it in their eyes, sometimes filled with tears, sometimes just burning with peace. That's not performance. That's transformation. And it's not just the person saying it who's affected. It's everyone who's watching, because in that moment, something pierces through the noise of everyday life. Something that reminds you of your own longing for truth, your own buried questions, your own search for meaning. You feel it whether you want to or not. That's what truth does. It doesn't knock politely. It walks straight in and sits at the table of your conscience. It's extraordinary, really In a world where we've all become experts in suppressing emotion, where strength is often confused with cold detachment, here is someone fully alive in their moment. Vulnerable, yet stronger than ever, shaking yet unbreakable. And somehow that moment softens even the most cynical hearts, because you're not watching weakness. You're watching the kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. The kind of strength doesn't need to convince anyone. It just is. There's a certain humility to it. Twos, they're not announcing themselves as saints. They're not pretending to be perfect. In fact, the emotion comes precisely because they've come to terms with their imperfection, because they've reached a point where they can finally surrender, not out of defeat, but out of awareness. That kind of surrender isn't weak. It's bold, it's liberating, and it's what makes the entire moment feel sacred. And here's what really stays with you, the aftermath, the way their energy shifts, the way they carry themselves. The biggest economies, it's not always obvious at first, but there's a lightness, a sense of grounding, as if the clutter has been cleared and what's left is a kind of peace that the world can't offer. And economies, you're left wondering, what would my life feel like if I were honest with myself? Because when someone declares the Shahada with that much emotion, they're not just touching their own soul, they're touching yours. They're reminding you your capacity to feel, to believe, to reconnect with something real. And whether you accept it or not, the impact is undeniable. It sits with you. It lingers. And it makes you ask the one question we spend most of our lives running from: what do I truly believe? There's a profound moment that happens when someone declares the Shahada, a moment that goes far beyond mere words. It's a rebirth, a radical redefinition of life itself. Because saying there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger, is not just a statement of faith. It's a complete reset. A chance to wipe the slate clean and begin again. And that's the real power that so few people talk about. The Shahada isn't just a creed, it's a transformational pivot point. Think about it. How often do we get that kind of reset in life? Rarely, if ever. Most of us drag our pasts like chains weighed down by mistakes, regrets, and failures. We cling to old identities and carry burdens that limit us from moving forward. But when someone genuinely utters the Shahada, they are, in a sense, shedding that old skin. It's a break from everything that came before. All the doubts, the confusion, the fear, replaced by a profound sense of clarity and purpose. This isn't about denial of the past, but about transcending it. It's like standing at the edge of a vast new territory. You're no longer confined by the maps others gave you. You're charting your own course, guided by something deeper than ambition or convenience. This rebirth brings with it a responsibility to live differently, to act with integrity, and to embody the values that the declaration demands. And that's not a small ask. It's a lifelong commitment that transforms every decision, every interaction, every thought. What's compelling is how this moment redefines identity and potential all at once. It's not just about religion, it's about becoming someone new, someone who carries a profound certainty in the face of life's chaos. The Shahada sets a foundation, a spiritual backbone that holds firm even when the world shakes. This foundation isn't brittle or frail. It's forged in the fire of personal conviction, experience, and a willingness to start over. In a way, it's the ultimate expression of hope. Not a naive fairy tale hope, but a hard-earned, grounded hope. The kind that comes from looking at life's darkest moments and deciding to believe there's a greater design, a higher purpose. That belief becomes a compass, a source of resilience when the inevitable storms come. Because let's be honest, life doesn't suddenly become easy after that declaration, but it becomes meaningful. That's the difference. And this transformation doesn't just affect the individual, it radiates outward. It changes relationships, perspectives, and how the person navigates the world. Others see it too, a newfound calm, a focused determination, an authenticity that can't be faked. It's magnetic because it's real. And it's contagious because it invites others to consider their own possibilities for change. What's perhaps most remarkable is how accessible this transformation is. It's not reserved for a select few. It doesn't require extraordinary circumstances or heroic feats. It only requires one thing: the courage to say yes to something greater, to admit that the old way isn't working and that it's time for something new. That's a decision any one of us can make. And when we do, it's nothing short of revolutionary. So when you witness someone make that declaration, when you hear the Shahada, you're not just hearing words. You're witnessing a powerful moment of transformation, a declaration of freedom from the past and a bold embrace of a future defined by faith, purpose, and courage. It's a reminder that no matter where we come from, no matter what we've been through, all have the power to begin again. And that, my friends, is one of the most hopeful truths you'll ever encounter.